Hey everybody, Nick Dingle here again with another Construct 2 tutorial. We're going to do another gameplay mechanic, and this time around we're going to be looking at different weapons and how to swap between them, okay? What I really want to focus on is how you're going to create a set of weapons with the least amount of code. Now, a lot of people might tell you to use a family object, and I have used family objects in the past and they're great, but they're not available to people with the free version of Construct 2. So I want to focus on how you would use a single object with multiple weapons. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is you're going to go down to the description of the video and you are going to click on the link that says differentweapons.zip. Okay, it's a Dropbox link. You're going to download that and you're going to first of all open it up. All right, and this is going to contain all of the graphics for our entire game. So we're going to create a weapon with 3 different types of guns under it. We're going to have a pistol, a rocket launcher, and a laser, and it's all going to be in a single object but coded a little bit separately. Okay, we'll get to how we do that in just a moment. All right. Now, just a quick little shout out. These are not my graphics. I actually took them from the Construct 2 asset bundle and I repurposed a couple of them. The pistol is one that I took straight from the assets, and then the laser gun and the rocket launcher are dodgy reimaginings of the pistol with just crappy colors on top, just to indicate they're a different gun. All right, so the first thing we're going to have to do after opening this up is we're going to have to create a project folder, okay, because that's the way I work. So I'm going to go to my downloads folder. I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to call it different weapons, and that's just going to be the name of my project. So if you're going to call it something different, please do so. Okay, I'm now going to create one more folder called GFX. If you follow my Super Mario Bros series, this is simply where I just store all my graphics, okay, and inside this is where we're going to store them temporarily. This can actually be deleted once we've finished the project because the graphics will be inside the Construct project. Okay, so I'm going to drag all these bad boys out of the zip file and into the graphics folder like we have to. So click and drag to highlight, click and drag to extract. All right, now we can, I'm going to copy the address of my different weapons folder, and I'll tell you why in a second. I'm just going to close these windows now. So let's get started. Let's create a brand new empty Construct project. So just a new empty project, open. Okay, and the first thing I do is save. And this is why I copied the address. I'm going to paste it in the top there. Name the project Weapons. Oh my god. Okay. And the second thing we're going to do is just set up all the default properties. So I hate leaving it as new project. So different weapons. And the second thing we're going to do is change the layout size, because we're not going to have any verticality. We're not going to go up and down in our game. So I'm simply going to make the layout size match the window's height. So 480 for the height. I'm going to leave the width alone though. So click on layout 1, expand layout size, and do 480. Okay. And that's it. Now just quickly, this tutorial sort of follows on from the previous one I did, which was for fire rate. So I'm going to implement fire rate in this game, but I'm not going to explain it as much as I did in the last video. So if you want to see that, I'm going to put a link down in the description as well to go back to the previous gameplay mechanic. And that explains how you implement a fire rate on a weapon. Anyway, let's get on with this and start setting up the objects. I always set up the player first, so let's double click on our layout, select a sprite, call it player, and insert him right away. Okie doke. And for some reason he's gone over the side here. Okay. So what I'm going to do, he's got 2 animation frames. It's a really dodgy walking animation. So I'm going to import them down here on the animation frames bar. So if you right click, go import frames and from files, it allows us to select a couple of files. So we'll go to GFX, select player 1, control, select player 2, or shift, whichever one, and click open. And now we've got the 2 little animation frames of him walking. Nice and little dodgy one. But before we do, delete frame 0 with the delete key. And now we've got our little player set up. Before we go anywhere, let's just quickly add ourselves another image point, okay? And this is going to be where the player holds the weapon. So I like the origin point, that's fine. I don't mind the collision, it's nice and simple. Okay, but I'm going to add a new image point. I'm going to call it gun, and I'm going to put it on his hand. Now don't apply the exact same image point to the second frame, okay? We're going to change it. So before we do, let's right click and go apply to whole animation, and that will actually put the gun image point on this one. But you can see his arm moves in the second frame. That's going to look weird if the weapon doesn't move with him. So I'm just going to put it there. Okay, or a little bit up. Yeah, so I'm not going to give you the coordinates. Just pick the one that you like the most. Change it later if you don't like it. So let's close that. And let's set the player up. He's going to have some instance variables, and he's also going to have some behaviors. The only instance variable we're going to have is called weapon. All right, and this is going to indicate which weapon the player is currently holding. So I'm going to go initial value is -1, which means no weapon at all. Okay, and then depending on which weapon is selected, we're going to just increase that value. So 0 will be pistol, 1 will be rocket launcher, 2 will be the laser. Okay, and they're actually going to be very important, those numbers. We're going to talk about them very soon. But let's close that, and let's add some behaviors to our player. So there's 3 behaviors that I want in this one. So I'm going to add the first one, which is bouncer layout, so we can't fall off the edge of the world. Second one is platform, so we can move. And the third one is scroll to, because if we walk off the screen, you want the camera to follow him. All right. And to be honest, I'm not actually going to change any of the properties down here as well. I'm going to leave them as they are. Okay. So I hope that's good, people. Now let's create the weapon, okay, because he's going to need the most amount of setting up. So let's create a new sprite. Let's call it Guns. And I'll explain why it's called Guns in a moment and not just gun. All right. Put him on the layout. And we're going to have 3 animations to give it. What the heck was that? To begin with, okay? The first animation is going to be our pistol. The second animation is going to be the rocket launcher. And the third animation is going to be the laser rifle. So let's quickly rename the default animation to pistol. Add another animation. Call it rocket. And add one more, laser. All right. So let's set up the pistol animation to begin with, and we're just going to use it by clicking the open. And the reason I use this button instead of coming down here is we've only got a single picture, and it'll replace the blank frame. So I'm going to click open. We're going to select pistol, and there you go. And we're going to do the same thing for rocket. Open, rocket launcher, laser, open. Don't know why I called it laser gun. Really, it's a laser rifle or something like that. But anyway, so we're going to set up the image points before we go as well. So the origin I perceive to be about here, okay? This is where the player is going to hold the gun, okay? For some reason, I sort of perceive it as a gun that the player inserts their hand into. It looks a bit futuristic in that way. I don't know. You can change it. You can put it down here if you prefer, but I'm going to leave it there, okay? And I'm going to add one more image point to this guy, okay? And this is going to be where the bullet spawns. So you're going to rename it. Just click on that, and let's call it bullet. Make sure you place it on the end of the barrel. Okay, or you could even put it a little bit out of the barrel. It's up to you, but I'm just going to put it there. Okay? And before we go anywhere, we need to apply both these image points to all the animations. So all the guns get these image points. So let's right click on origin and go apply to all animations. Yep. Same thing with bullet. Yep. And you'll notice that rocket, my dodgy rocket, and my dodgy laser has got both of these image points. Okay. So there's no behaviors for this gun, but there's a lot of instance variables. So let's go through them. So I'm going to go to instance variables, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them to add. So the first one is going to be fire rate, and it's exactly how we used in the previous video. Okay. Second one is fire rate cooldown, not cooldown. Okay. And now we've got some new ones to do. So we've got laser cooldown. Okay. We've got laser recharging. Now, before you hit enter, make sure this one is a boolean. There's not a number this time around. Okay? There's going to be laser recharge time. And then finally, laser recharge cooldown. All right, lots and lots of variables there. So let's quickly go through them. So the fire rate is how quickly we can shoot our bullets. Okay? And it's going to be slightly used differently for the laser, but we'll talk about how the laser works when we get there. The fire rate cooldown is when we shoot a bullet, okay? It starts at 0, and you shoot a bullet, it's going to increase to whatever the fire rate is. So for bullets or for a pistol, it's 0.2 seconds. So when we fire, the cooldown goes up to 0.2, and then we start reducing it back to 0. As soon as fire rate cooldown hits 0 again, we're allowed to shoot. Okay, the laser cooldown is pretty much the exact same thing, but a little bit opposite. So the laser can exist for a certain amount of time, and that's what the laser cooldown does. So if we shoot the laser, it's only going to last that amount of seconds, and then we're going to destroy the laser. Okay, when the laser has been shot and destroyed, it needs to recharge. So we're going to say that the laser is recharging. Okay, the laser recharge time is how long it takes to recharge, and the laser recharge cooldown is like the fire rate cooldown. but it's for when the laser is recharging. So we've shot the laser, it's been destroyed, it's recharging. So the recharge increases to, I think it's 1.5 seconds, and then it slowly comes back down to 0, and we can shoot again. Okay, so it's got a big recharge time on it. Okay, anyway, we've got a couple of default values here, and the only one, actually, we've only got one, is the laser recharge time. We're going to put 1.5, and the reason I'm not going to put a fire rate in is because we've got the pistol and the rocket launcher and the laser all with different fire rates. So we're going to do something a little bit different for them. All right, the guns are done. Okay, so we're going to implement the ground. So let's just create a tiled background. Call it ground. Click. And again, the picture, because we've only got one. And done. Okay, the height I'm just going to set manually to 64. That's just going to be one high. We're going to put it down here and resize it to the whole world. Okay. The only thing we have to do to the ground is add the solid behavior, okay? Because otherwise we won't be able to walk on it. Solid. Okay. Done. Alrighty. So the only other things that we have to create in the terms of sprites are the bullets, okay? And we're going to create all of them down here in the grey stuff, simply because we don't want the bullets up here when the game begins. But there has to be at least one of the sprites so you can use them in code. Okay, so let's come down here, let's create, let's go sprite, and let's call this one just bullet for the pistol. Again, use the open symbol, bullet, close it. Okay, and then add one behavior, which is, you could probably guess, bullet. If you've never done this before, you wouldn't have been able to guess. Alright, we add two more. Let's go sprite, rocket, open, rocket, bullet. And I'm going to make him a little bit faster. We're going to create him as 800, okay, just so he flies off a little bit further. Last one, sprite, laser, add it down here, open, laser. I don't particularly like this one I created. It was very, very dodgy when I created it. I made a few modifications in my example game, and what I did is, first of all, I filled in this spot on the left, so I used the marquee to click and drag, and then I just went copy, just can use these, and paste, and that just filled in the end, and also resized it to be 5 pixels high, because that seemed a little bit nicer. Now, that's not perfect, it's not great, in fact, it's actually really crappy, but it's better than what I originally had, which was really, really bad. Okay, so this guy doesn't actually need a behavior because he's not going to go anywhere. He's just going to follow the gun. However, I did forget, we need to move his origin to the left-hand side. Okay, and the reason we have to do that is because you want the laser to pop out of the gun and be that long. You don't want it to pop out of the gun here and have it like overlapping the player and shooting out the end as well. So just put it on the left-hand side. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so our objects are created. There's only one more object I want to really put in the game, and that's going to be the keyboard. Alright, for the moment anyway. We've actually got a few more objects we're going to use, but until we get to them, I don't want to explain them. So let's add 2 more event sheets, okay, because I like to split my code up, and let's do the player first because he's nice and quick. So right click, add event sheet, player. One more, right click, and call this weapons. And before we do any coding whatsoever, we're going to go to event sheet 1, and we're going to include both of our event sheets. So include, and that means our code is going to be across the entire level. So if you need to pause the video and catch up with any of that stuff, again, please do, because we're going to get into the player coding, and I want to move it along because the weapons are going to take a little bit. So player, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a group for my code. So we're going to go add group, we're going to go player animations, and all of our code's going to go into here. I always add my code with an S, so it's a sub-event of the group. So S for sub-event, and we're going to look at, on the start of layout, we're going to stop the player animating straight away. So system, start of, and then the action is just simply player stop. Okay, so they're not running at the beginning of the game. Okay, now we need to actually animate when we start moving around. So I'm clicked on, you see how I clicked on player animations again? Press S on the keyboard for another sub event. We're going to say player on moved And then the action is going to be, obviously, player start. And you can leave it at current frame. That's fine. Okay? So when they move, play the current animation. Now we're going to add another event. We've got a few more to go. So click up here, sub event with S. We're going to go player on stopped. And then the action is player, we've already done it, stop. Now I'm actually going to add one more condition to this guy here because I found it a little bit buggy in some instances for Construct. Sometimes when the player stops moving, Construct won't register that stop and your player will be running on the spot. So what I do is I add a second condition, but before we do, we right click on the edge here, okay, underneath the green arrow, and make it an OR block. Okay, so that way there's two things that can stop the animation. So now we add another condition. So I can right click and say add another condition. And what we're going to do is go player speed. Make sure you select the platform compare speed, not the animation one, equals 0. So if you stop or our speed is 0, we're going to stop the animating. Okay, and that seems to be sort of a more or less foolproof way of stopping him animating while that's happening. Okay, two more things, guys. When we're using the keyboard to move left and right, we want to mirror the player and their gun. So again, click up here, press S on the keyboard, go to keyboard this time around, and we're going to say, is key pressed? The key we're first starting with is left, because if the player is moving left, we need to mirror them. So add an action, player, set mirrored, mirrored. Okay, I'll just expand that out so you guys can see it. Same thing with the gun, guys. Guns, mirrored, mirrored. That's fine. So we're going to do that again, but we're going to do it for the right arrow and we're going to do it for not mirrored. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this. So click on the left-hand side and then you can go copy paste and then just edit to the right arrow, edit that to not mirrored, and edit this to not mirrored as well. And that's actually the player script done. Okay, you can fire her up, move her around, and you'll see the player animating. The gun's going to be floating in the air, but that's fine. Okay, I personally want to move on. Okay, I want to go to the weapons event sheet, and we're going to start here. Okay, so the first thing is we've got a number of groups in this one here, and we're going to do the weapon. Let's do the weapon display first. So I'm going to right click, add a group, and I'm literally going to call this weapon display. So this is all about the visual when it comes to the guns. So we're going to change the gun animation. We're going to set it as invisible if there's no gun equipped, etc., etc. So what do I mean by that? All right, let's add a sub event to weapon display. Okay, we're going to check if the player has a weapon. So how do we know if they've got a weapon? If the player's weapon instance variable is set to -1, then they don't have a weapon. That's as simple as it gets. So we're going to make the gun invisible. All right. Otherwise, we're going to make the gun visible and set it to the right animation. Okay, so we're going to go S for this. We're going to go player, compare instance variable. Okay. The weapon is equal to -1. So player weapon equals -1. Then we simply go guns, visibility is invisible. All right. Now, pretty much if it's not -1, then they have to have a weapon out. So what I'm going to do is add an else. So if you right click on it and go add, you can choose else. So what this means, if the weapon is -1, it's going to set it invisible. Otherwise, it's just going to do this code here. Okay. The first thing we're going to do is make sure that the gun is visible. Okay. So I'm going to copy that action and paste it because I'm lazy and change that to visible. So if they have no weapon, it's invisible. If they have a weapon, make it visible. Second thing I'm going to do is make sure the gun is following the player. So guns, set position to another object. So the object is the player. The image point is gun that we set up. All right. And now we've got two other things we have to do here, but we don't have the system in place to do it. So let's quickly save because I always like to save. And let's talk about those systems. So, guns, the animations, they're the first thing we need to do. We need to figure out which gun that the player has. And we're essentially making it so the weapon has a number. So -1 is no weapon, 0 is the pistol, 1 is the rocket, and 2 is the laser. Okay, so depending on which one the player has, we're going to display a different animation, okay, at each time. And depending on the weapon selected, we're also going to change the fire rate of the weapon. So we've got two sets of values there that we'd either have to set up a huge set of if statements for, or we can use a system called arrays, okay? And I'll explain them as we do them. So let's insert two new objects. So right click on object types, insert a new object, make sure you just got array selected. And the first one is called weapon animations. Okay. Now what an array is, the grid sort of tries to give away what an array is, okay? It's lots of squares where you can fill up numbers. Now, if you understand what an instance variable is, that's awesome, because an array is essentially a big set of variables, okay? And the way we're going to use it, guys, is essentially like a list of numbers, okay? So in our array, it's currently empty. There's nothing inside of it, all right? And with weapon animations, we're going to give it the names of the animations inside our guns. So we've only got 3 animations at the moment. We've got pistol, we've got rocket, and we've got laser. And that's literally what we're going to put inside our array. That's going to be the first element in our array, which will actually be number 0. That's going to be the second position in our array, which is going to be number 1. And laser is going to be number 2. All right. I think some people may have already tweaked to what I'm doing here. So this player's weapon variable refers to which one inside the array we are going to be choosing. Okay. So if weapon is set to 0, we're going to select the 0 position name. And the reason I have to do this is because of 2 things. First of all, you cannot name animations with a number. See, I did that pretty quickly, so I'll slow down. If I type 0 and just want to use a number instead of an actual name and press enter, it doesn't actually work. The second thing is pistol's nicer than 0. Okay, simple as that. And you can't select a number for an animation. You have to give it a name. So we're going to use this array. We're going to put the names inside of it, and then we're going to use those names for the animation. Okay, it sounds really difficult, but it's really simple. Okay, so before we can do any of the actions here, we actually need to fill up the weapon animations with the names. So before we do that, I want you to set the width to 0, guys. Okay, we're not going to have anything inside this at the moment. Okay, and leave height and depth as 1, because that means we're just going to have one column of words. Okay, we're just going to have like this. Okay, instead of having multiple columns, which you could if you change those. Let's add a new group. This is going to be called weapon setup. Okay, and we're going to do an event which is on the start of layout. So system start of layout. And the first thing we're going to do is add those 3 words to weapon animations, and it's going to add them in. We're going to have to add them in that particular order: pistol, rocket, laser. So let's add action. Let's go to weapon animations. And to add things to an array, you use what's called push. So you're pushing it in the next position. Just forget about where an axis, just the value is important to us. Put pistol in quotes, click done. Okay, and that will literally put in our weapon animations array the word pistol. And now we're going to do the same thing for rocket and laser. The only thing you need to make sure of, guys, is that A, the order matches the animations, and B, the spelling and capitalization matches the animations as well. So copy, paste, paste. Okay, and I'm just going to edit what we're pushing into our array. Rocket, and then finally laser. Okay, with that done, we can add our action up here now, which is going to be setting the animation of the gun. So we go to guns, set animation. And this is the hardest part. Where is the name of the animation coming from? Well, the animation name is coming from our array called weapon animations. So let's do that. So weapon animations. However, we need to specify, is it a pistol, a rocket, or a laser? So we're going to have to do what's called .at. And if you open a bracket, we now need to give it a number. We give it 0 for pistol, 1 for rocket, or 2 for laser in that particular order. If I actually put the number, so I'm just going to leave it as 0 for the moment, and I'm going to play my game, it should set the gun to the animation pistol. Let's hope. Oh, whoops. It's setting the gun to invisible, so I'm just going to quickly change the player weapon to 0. So I just clicked on player, change weapon 0, try one more time. Okay, so I've got the pistol, and if I change this number to 1, it's going to pick rocket, and so forth. Okay, so that changes the visualization of it. Now, we don't want to do that, obviously. We don't want to have to change a number here because that just, how would that work? You can only actually use one gun at a time while your game is running. So what we do there is the number here is actually going to come from the player weapon. So literally just go player.weapon. And whatever number we have in this instance variable is going to be replaced here. So if it's 0 here, it's going to be the first weapon. And there it is. Okay, simple as that. My animation's not working. I'll have to fix that later. Okie doke. Now the last thing that we have to do is I told you that we had different fire rates for all the different weapons, and that's why I left this as 0. So we're going to do the same thing that we did for weapon animations for the fire rates. Okay, so we're going to have another array, so insert a new object, go array, and go weapon fire rates. We're going to set the width to 0, and then we're going to add the 3 fire rates inside the weapon setup. So if you just go add action, weapon fire rates, push, just like we did before, and it's not, you don't need quotes for this one because it's a number. The first fire rate is going to be the pistols, the second one's a rocket, and the third one's a laser. Okay, so the pistol I'm going to set at 0.4, so that means 0.4 seconds every time it shoots a bullet. I'm going to add the next fire rate, so weapon fire rates, push. This one's going to be 1, so that's 1 rocket every second. And now the laser's a little bit different. I'm going to go weapon fire rates, push, 2. And that's how long the laser will last when we shoot it. So it's a little bit different in that way. And we have to add one more action up here, guys. And that's going to be guns, set value of the fire rates, which is the first one, which is always handy. The value of the fire rates is almost exactly how we've done the animation. So we're going to go weapon fire rates dot at. However, oh no, not however, player.weapon. So if we've got the pistol, it's going to set it to the pistol fire rate. If we've got the rocket, we're going to have the rocket fire rate. So the only thing you need to worry about, guys, is making sure, again, you've got the right order and you've got the right number for your weapons. Okay, save, because we're getting there. All right, I'm actually going to minimize these 2 displays, guys. So if you need to code up a little bit more, pause the video. So I'm going to minimize that and that. And we're going to implement some weapon swapping so we can actually see the guns changing in the game. So let's create a new group, call it weapon swapping. And we're just going to use the numbers at the top of the keyboard. 1 is going to be no weapon, 2 is pistol, 3 is the rocket, 4 will be the laser. Okay, because that, for me as an old school gamer, that makes sense. You could later on implement a scroll wheel sort of thing, like if you ever played Nuclear Throne, you could do it like that. It's entirely up to you. So let's add a sub event with S. Let's go to the keyboard. And let's say on key pressed, we're going to check if they've pressed number 1 to start with. If they press number 1, we're going to take their weapon away from them. So set it to -1. So go add action, player, set value of weapon to -1. So that will turn the weapon off. I'm going to copy this whole event here 3 more times. Copy, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to edit it to 2. And that will be 0, and that'll be 3, and that'll be 1. Okay, so I'm just going to do this in front of your eyes, and you guys, whoop, I pressed the numpad, not the actual 2. Bit of elevator music, how ridiculous. Alright, and that's actually all we need to do. Okay, if you run the game now, it should automatically change the weapons up. I don't know why my animation's not working. I'll have to check that in a sec at the end. Okay, that's weapon swapping done. Again, same thing with all my code. If you need to code it, pause it, because I'm closing it. Alright, so it's minimized now, guys. Now it's actually time to actually get these guns shooting. Actually, I'm going to say actually again. Actually. Okay, so inside this group, this is where we're going to handle, you know, if we're shooting a pistol, if we're shooting a rocket launcher, or the laser. And that's probably the hardest part, is the laser. Okay, guys, because it's such a weird system, okay, compared to the others, that is. So let's create a new group. Let's call it the obvious weapon shooting. And we're just going to implement the pistol shooting. Now, again, I'm not going to explain this code very much because it was in the previous video. I did that all. So check the description, check the link for the previous video, and check that one out. So to shoot, we're going to use the spacebar. because I'm using the arrow keys, it seems natural to use the spacebar to shoot. So S for a sub event, go to keyboard. We're going to go is key down. We're not going to go key pressed. I'll explain that later. Spacebar when we get to the laser, because it's more for the laser than anything else. Now under this is going to be all the code for our different guns, and the first one we need to do is the pistol. So to figure out if the player has the pistol, it's simply going to be checking if player's variable weapon equals 0. So let's go a sub event, player, compare instance, weapon equals 0. Okay. If the weapon equals 0, we need to first of all check if we can shoot. So that means the fire rate, or fire cooldown I should say, fire rate cooldown is less than or equal to 0. So press C for a second condition, guys. Let's go to guns, compare instance, fire rate cooldown is less than or equal to 0. Okay. And this is the primary thing that makes us so we don't shoot continuously forever. Okay. So if we have the pistol and we're allowed to shoot, let's spawn a bullet, guys. So let's go guns, spawn, and this time, because it's a pistol, we're going to just do bullet. The image point is going to be, in quotes, you goose, bullet. Just like so. When we set the bullet, as soon as we've shot it, we are going to set the fire rate cooldown to something bigger than 0, so we're not allowed to shoot anymore. So let's go add action, guns, set value to fire rate cooldown, and what are we going to set it to? We're going to set it to self, which means just the guns, fire rate. Okay, I just like self because it's just quick and easy to type in. Alright, the only thing we have to check after that is if the player's mirrored, then we're going to make the bullet go to the left rather than the right. So guys, click on the left, press S for a sub event. Let's go to player and see if they are mirrored. So player, just type in MIR and then it comes up with is mirrored. And the action is just simply going to be bullet set speed. Make sure, again, you select the bottom one, not the top one. And what is the speed going to be? It's going to be the same speed of the bullet as it normally is, which is 400, but I don't want to type in negative 400, okay, because negative is going to send it to the left. What I want to do is just type in negative self bullet dot speed, okay, and that just takes whatever speed value you've given the original bullet and makes it negative, just like that. So that's the pistol shooting done. So I'm going to add the comment with a Q button, pistol shooting. Okay, so we're going to add some more code, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the rocket launcher right now because that's going to be simple and easy. So highlight there by clicking on the left. Let's copy and paste, and let's edit this so it becomes, I want a scroll bar, give me a scroll bar, there we go. I want to edit this bit down here so it becomes the rocket launcher. So let's double click on this. Weapon 1 is our rocket launcher. A rocket launcher doesn't spawn a bullet, it spawns a rocket. Okay, the fire rate cooldown is fine because it'll automatically be set to the rocket launcher's fire rate. If the player's mirrored, don't mirror the bullet because that'll screw things up for us. Whoop, I'm just going to right click on it. We're going to go replace object. And there it is, rocket. And that's actually it for the rocket launcher. So again, click here. I'm going to hit Q, rocket shooting. All right, and let's just test both of these together. So press play. 2 should be pistol. Now you'll notice I can only shoot once, and there's a good reason for that. I'm increasing fire rate cooldown, but nowhere am I decreasing or subtracting fire rate cooldown. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another sub event to weapon shooting. So up here, press S, go to guns. We're going to see, so we're going to go compare instance variable. We're going to see if fire rate cooldown is greater than 0, because if it is, now I'm just going to drag this up, guys. Sorry about this. So just click here and put it at the top because it seems pretty important. We're going to go add action. We're going to go to guns, subtract from fire rate cooldown. How much are we going to subtract? We're going to subtract DT, delta time. Again, something in the previous videos I want you guys to have a look at. Okay, let's test them out again. Pew, pew, pew. Rocket launcher. You'll see it's a lot slower than the pistol, so it's already implemented the fire rate. And to change the fire rates, you simply have to change the values in our weapon setup. And that's the beauty of all this. Now the next one, the laser gun, we're going to finish off. And This one is a little bit more complicated. He's got a lot more variables. So let's talk you through how it works. So the laser gets shot. So we spawn the laser out in front of the gun. The laser sticks around for how long the fire rate is. So if fire rate is 2, which we've done it initially, then the laser is going to stick around for 2 seconds. We then destroy the laser, and we have to wait 1.5 seconds to use it again. Alright, so it's a little bit different to how the bullets work, obviously. So this is just an opportunity for me to show you how to do this. Okay, so let's click on this guy here, and we're going to add a sub event because he is so different. So S for sub event, we're going to go to player. We're going to compare instance variable. We're going to see if the weapon equals 2. Okay, and we've got 2 more conditions to add to this bad boy. So I want you to press C, and we're going to check if guns, and I'm going to check a Boolean variable, okay? And we need to make sure it's going to go laser recharging because it's the only Boolean. And we're going to right click and invert this bad boy. So we're going to make sure that when they want to shoot the laser, that the laser isn't recharging at the moment, okay? That's the most important thing. Now, to make sure they don't spawn multiple lasers, we need another condition. We're going to go laser and just type in screen, and we've got this one here which is on screen, and we're going to invert that as well. So there's 2 things going on here. We're going to go, it's a laser, it's not recharging, and it has not been shot. Okay, they're the key factors here. So the actions we're going to do if we haven't got a laser on the screen is spawn one first of all. So guns, spawn, the object is laser, and the image point is like we did before, bullet. Okay, and the next one we're going to do the fire rate thing again. So I could have probably copied and pasted the actions above actually. Oh well, whatever. Set value of the laser cooldown to the fire rate. So self.fire rate. So you'll notice we're not using fire rate cooldown. And the reason we're not using fire rate cooldown is because we don't want this code to apply to the laser. Okay, it's very important that that doesn't apply. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to check if the player is mirrored. We're going to set the laser to mirrored. Else we're going to set it to not mirrored. So S for a sub event, player, mirrored, action, laser, mirrored. Yep, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to add an else with an X, guys. We're going to add an action. We're going to go laser, mirrored, not mirrored. So if the player is mirrored, set the laser to mirrored. Otherwise, don't mirror the laser. Okay, add a comment here. This is laser shooting. We're not done with the laser, but this is going to create a laser for us. So let's just quickly test that this works. So press 4, press space. Now you can see all the problems. A, the laser sticks around. B, the laser doesn't follow us. And C, nothing really works. Okay, so we're going to add a whole new group for this code because it just seems a bit more organized if we do it. So guys, copy this code, pause, copy if you need to, because I'm going to minimize and add one more group. And this is the last one, guys. So weapon, laser. Okay, and in this one, first of all, need to check if the laser gun has been shot. And we simply do that by seeing if there's a laser on the screen. So press S for a sub event, laser, type screen, and that's how we start. Okay, if the laser's on the screen, we're going to slowly reduce the laser cooldown that we set. Okay, if the laser cooldown, so let's go guns, where is it, subtract, laser cooldown, and we're going to do DT. Alright, so reduce the laser cooldown slowly. Okay, this is us destroying the laser itself. The second thing is we're going to set the position of the laser. So laser, set position to another object. That object is the gun. That image point is the bullet image point. Okay, set position to gun, image point, bullet. And now we actually have to do that mirror thing again because the laser wants to follow us. If we turn around, we need to change the mirroring of the actual laser. So we're going to do a sub event to this guy. We're going to do the player, mirrored. Action is going to be laser, mirrored. Sorry if that was too quick, guys. And then we're going to do the else, laser not mirrored. So X, copy and paste. Not mirrored. That was pretty quick. So guys, pause if you need it because we're going to go on to the next bit, which is if this laser cooldown hits 0, we're going to destroy the laser and we're going to start recharging the gun. Okay, so sub event of this guy, number 22. So S, guns, Okay, compare instance variable, laser cooldown, less than or equal to 0. Now, if laser cooldown has hit 0 or it's smaller than 0, we are in the recharging state. So the first thing I like to do, go guns, type in boolean for set boolean, and laser recharging true. Bang. That's the first thing we do. Second thing we do is set the laser recharge cooldown. So the laser recharge cooldown increases all the way to 1.5 seconds, and then we slowly decrease that. Hope that makes sense, guys. So let's go to guns, set value, laser recharge cooldown. So this is it recharging, self dot laser recharge time. So it's just how we use fire. It's exactly how we use fire rate, in fact, but it's just for recharging instead. The third thing we do is we destroy the laser. Okay, destroy that bad boy because we don't want him anymore now. So this is going to create a laser. It's going to destroy the laser. We're going to do one more thing after this, but let's test it. 4. So it follows us. 2 seconds. Gone. And I can't shoot again. Okay. So the reason we can't shoot again is because this cooldown isn't being subtracted. So let's add a sub event to weapon laser. Press S. Go to guns. Let's go boolean. Laser recharging. So if the laser gun is recharging, then we're going to subtract from laser recharge cooldown. So let's go guns, subtract laser recharge cooldown, DT again, so delta time once again. So it recharges at the correct time. Now a sub event to is it recharging? We're going to check if we've actually hit 0 or less with laser recharge cooldown. Then we need to turn off the recharging. Okay, sub event. Let's go guns. Compare instant. If laser recharge cooldown less than or equal to 0, and we're not recharging anymore. So let's do that. So add action, guns, boolean, laser recharging, false. Save like I always do. Let's try it out. That's not laser. 1, 2. Off you trot. Can't shoot. And now I can again. There you go. So that doesn't show you how to obviously hit enemies and hurt enemies, but that would be implementing like collision detection of your bullets with the enemy. The laser I would probably do overlapping the enemy, and I would check it every sort of 0.3 or 0.5 seconds. So you can sort of hit the enemy a couple of times while the laser's out. But that actually brings us to the end of the video, guys. I hope you liked it, okay? I hope you taught you something about implementing multiple weapons without the need for families. All right, but if you've got any comments, please put them down below. If you like the video, hit that thumb because it helps me and I like seeing them. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, everybody. I will see you in the next gameplay mechanic video, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Ta-ta for now.